Chapter 1139. All in all, they were not to be trifled with. At this time, the two friends next to Zhuang Rongguang looked at each other, and then one of them said, "Photon, how about this? Changzi and I will go out and raise money for you first. Otherwise, we won't be able to get money just by staying here." "That's right. We'll get the money as soon as possible and send it to you." Zhuang Rongguang looked at the few fierce-looking men and could only agree. "You two hurry up." "Yes, yes, yes." The two of them ran out quickly. Then, Zhuang Rongguang was brought to an abandoned warehouse not far from the casino. After the group of people brought him over, they ignored him and continued to drink and play cards noisily. As they were guarding the only exit, he had no chance to escape. It was late at night, and the place was gloomy and had a musty smell. Moreover, the place was remote. Even if he were to die here, no one would know. Thinking of this, Zhuang Rongguang could not help but feel a chill down his spine. If it were any other time, he would have moved out of his house. This time, however, he had caused too much trouble. If his family found out, he would be done for. Therefore, he could only place his hopes on his two friends. However, as time passed, there was still no movement from the two of them. There was not even a phone call. "Hey, brat. Why aren't they here yet? Your two friends wouldn't have run away, would they?" The man with the golden chain kicked him and asked. "Impossible. I'll call them right now. Maybe they're already on their way here." Zhuang Rongguang quickly made a phone call. In the end, the phone rang a dozen times, but no one picked up. After it hung up automatically, Zhuang Rongguang continued to call, but this time, the phone was turned off. Zhuang Rongguang's forehead was covered in cold sweat. His hand trembled as he dialed another person's number, but it was still turned off. Zhuang Rongguang was so angry that he almost smashed his phone. Usually when they played together, he was the one who paid. Even when they were picking up girls, he was the one who lent them money and a car. In the end, when something happened, they actually disappeared. They really ran away? Fuck. They're messing with us. The group of people was instantly enraged. Wait. They will definitely come back, and they should be gathering the money now. 5 million is not a small sum, and they will need some time, Zhuang Rongguang said anxiously. However, this time, those people had lost their patience. "Fuck you. I think you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Stomp this kid to death for me. How dare you? Do you know who I am? My father is Zhuang Liaoyuan." Under extreme fear, Zhuang Rongguang blurted out. When those people heard this, they did not show any signs of fear on their faces. Instead, they laughed out loud. "Ha ha 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 ha. Zhuang Liaoyuan is your father. That Zhuang Zongren is my grandfather. How can you be Zhuang Liaoyuan's son when you're so useless? Pooh. You guys?" Zhuang Rongguang was so angry that his face and neck turned red. "Stomp." The man with the golden chain looked gloomy. Then, the man with dyed blonde hair walked over with a sharp machete in his hand. The other man held Zhuang Rongguang's hand. These hooligans. They were really going to stomp his hand. Zhuang Rongguang had been in the imperial capital for a long time. Basically, everyone in the circle knew him. No matter how big the commotion was, they still had to give face to the Zhuang family. No one really dared to do anything to him. This was the first time someone dared to do this to him. Chapter 1140. No matter how muddle-headed he was only 18 years old. Zhuang Rongguang was trembling in fear, his face pale as he struggled. Wait. Give me another chance. I'll call someone to send the money over. I'll definitely send it over this time. I promise. The man with the gold chain looked at the blonde and said, "Let's be clear. We want cash." I got it. Zhuang Rongguang nodded as he dialed Zhuang Kuer's number. "Hello, Rongguang? It's so late, where are you? Why aren't you back yet?" Zhuang Kuer's anxious and reproachful voice came through the phone. "Sis, save me. Bring 5 million to East 3rd Avenue. There's an abandoned warehouse. Hurry up." Zhuang Rongguang didn't have time to say anything else and hurriedly shouted. "What's going on? Tell me." Zhuang Kuer's tone changed. "Sis, don't ask, just send the money over. My life is in your hands. If you don't tell me, I'll send you 5 million. Is 5 million a small amount? Did you send someone to the hospital again? No. No. Zhuang Rongguang could only brace himself as he looked at the people surrounding him. I owe them 5 million in gambling debt. Gambling debt. Zhuang Rongguang, are you crazy? How dare you touch this kind of thing? Zhuang Ke screamed angrily. Sis, lower your voice. I beg you, sis. Save me. If you don't come, they'll chop off my hand. I beg you, sis. Ah! As Zhuang Rongguang spoke, he was kicked by the person next to him, causing him to scream miserably. Don't touch him. I'll send the money over immediately. Don't touch him, do you hear me? Zhuang Ke shouted. The man took Zhuang Rongguang's phone and said to the person on the other end, I'll give you 30 minutes. If you exceed 1 minute, I'll chop off one of his fingers. With that, he hung up the phone with a paw sound. Zhuang Ke looked at the phone that had been hung up, her face pale. Yellow. Gambling. Poison. That was something the Zhuang family would never allow to touch. If he touched even a little bit of it, Zhuang Liaoyuan could really kill him with one shot. Grandpa has a heart condition, so he can't get any air. He couldn't call the police either. If he did, his glory would be ruined. Fortunately, his father wasn't home tonight. Zhuang Ke had no choice but to gather the money overnight and immediately rush to the place the other party had mentioned. Time ticked by, and Zhuang Rongguang felt like he was being cooked in a pot of oil. He didn't know if his sister would be able to raise the money. She wouldn't just abandon him, right? After all, he had always been causing trouble for her. She would probably be annoyed to death if she had to clean up his mess. The more Zhuang Rongguang thought about his two friends who had abandoned him, the more afraid he became. 3 more minutes. The man looked at the time on his phone and said. Blondie blew on the sharp knife in his hand. Don't worry, I'm very skilled. 1 stab. I guarantee you won't feel any pain. The cut will be neat and clean. There are still 3 minutes left. What's the hurry? Zhuang Rongguang said with a trembling voice. The man with the golden chain sneered, and continued to drink and chat with his companions. Finally, 3 minutes passed. Chapter 1141. It was only 3 minutes, but Zhuang Rongguang felt like a century had passed. The blonde gave the tattooed man a look. The tattooed man put down the bottle in his hand, walked over slowly, and pressed Zhuang Rongguang's hand. The blonde spat on the knife's edge. Kid, time's up. It's only 1 finger now. Tell me, which one should I chop first? The blonde's eyes were like a poisonous snake, scanning the youth's 10 fingers one by one. Zhuang Rongguang began to struggle like crazy. Let me go, let me go. My dad is Zhuang Liaoyuan, and my grandfather is Zhuang Zongren. If you dare to touch me, my family will never let you go. Ha 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 ha. Are you sure? Even if you're really Zhuang Liaoyuan's son, you're just a piece of trash. What's the big deal if I cripple you? Maybe your family will even thank me for helping to educate you. Little brother, if you really don't understand, then let me teach you. The underworld isn't as easy as you think. If you don't pay back what you owe, then you have to pay the price. It's the same no matter where you go. Even if it's the Zhuang family, I'm not afraid. If you want to make it big, then I'd like to see who's the unlucky one. The blonde's tone was completely fearless. As he spoke, the blonde man had already separated Zhuang Rongguang's fingers and aimed the knife at his little finger. Ah! Ah! Zhuang Rongguang let out a heart-wrenching cry. Stop! At the same time, a girl's roar came from the warehouse door. The blonde first looked at the girl at the door, then impatiently patted Zhuang Rongguang's face with the back of the knife. What are you yelling for? You haven't done it yet. What a coward! Zhuang Rongguang looked at his undamaged little finger, and was already scared to the point of tears and snot. Then he looked at the person at the door with a face full of hope, as if looking at the last life-saving straw. Sis, save me. He had always boasted that he had friends all over the world, and called them brothers all the time, and at this time, he could only ask for help at all costs. Only the sister that he had always hated, Zhuang Rongguang, couldn't tell what he was feeling. Zhuang Ke stood at the door panting. Seeing that the other party hadn't come yet, her face was full of shock. She looked at Zhuang Rongguang with disappointment and anger. The yellow-haired man's eyes swept over Zhuang Ke's body like a sticky fly. He asked faintly, Did you bring the money? I've brought it. Count it. 5 million, not a cent less. Zhuang Kuo threw a box in front of them. The man with the gold chain carried the box over and threw it to the back for his companions to count. A few men gathered around and began to count the number. Because they were in a hurry, Zhuang Kuo's suitcase contained cash, gold bars, and some jewelry. Anyway, it would definitely add up. After a while, one of them shouted, "Boss, no problem. This girl is quite honest." "Can you let him go now?" Zhuang Kuo asked coldly. "Of course." The yellow-haired man winked, and then the two accomplices immediately released Zhuang Rongguang. "Sis." Zhuang Rongguang wiped his tears and snot, and quickly ran towards Zhuang Kuo. Zhuang Kuo's heart was full of anger, but she knew that this wasn't the place to talk. It was more important to leave quickly. However, just as they were about to leave, the door was suddenly blocked by a few people standing there. Chapter 1142. The blonde man raised his eyebrows. "Girl, where are you going? Didn't I give you the money? What else do you want? I promised to let your brother go, but I didn't promise to let you go." The blonde man looked at Zhuang Kuo from head to toe. "What's the meaning of this? How can you go back on your word after taking the money?" Zhuang Rongguang was furious. The man with the gold chain laughed. "Hee, we did give you the money, but you've wasted so much time. Shouldn't we collect some interest?" "Interest?" Zhuang Kuo had a bad premonition. "What bullshit interest? I think you're looking for trouble on purpose." Zhuang Rongguang was so angry that his chest heaved up and down, but Zhuang Kuo pulled him back. Now that they had the advantage in numbers, it wouldn't do them any good to use force. "You want more money, right? I can raise it, but I need some time," Zhuang Kuo said. The gold-chained man and the yellow-haired man looked at each other and revealed a strange smile. The yellow-haired man touched his chin and looked at the woman in front of him wantonly. "There's no need for money. We don't lack that bit of money. As long as you stay and accompany us for one night, then we'll pay the interest." Zhuang Rongguang couldn't hold it in anymore. He broke free from Zhuang Kuo and rushed forward. "Bastard! I'll kill you." However, he was so small that he was no match for these people. A man with a scar on his face rushed out from the crowd and punched him to the ground. "Bastard! Who asked you to be so arrogant? Damn it! How dare you be so arrogant here?" At the same time, a wretched-looking man in a black singlet with tattoos all over his body walked towards Zhuang Kuo step by step. Zhuang Kuo didn't expect Zhuang Rongguang to mess with such a person, but it was too late to say anything. She could only stagger and retreat step by step. However, she was just a girl, and there were all men here. Where could she run to? She had only taken a few steps when the tattooed man grabbed her arm and pushed her to the ground. Her jacket was immediately torn off, revealing the thin pajamas underneath. "Yo, this girl is pretty smart, huh? You came dressed like this." The tattooed man's eyes were filled with lust, and the others also burst into laughter. When Zhuang Kuo heard the news that Zhuang Rongguang had been arrested, she was burning with anxiety. The other party only gave her 30 minutes to raise the money, or they would chop off her fingers. How could she have time to change her clothes? She could only put on a coat and came out. She did not even have time to change her shoes. She was still wearing slippers. "Let go. Let me go." Zhuang Kuo struggled and slapped him. The tattooed man's face emitted a paw sound. Suddenly he was filled with hostility and started to tear Zhuang Kuo's clothes. "Bastard! All of you, stop! If you have the ability, come at me. Don't touch my sister." In the corner, Zhuang Rongguang saw Zhuang Kuo, who was pressed to the ground, and his face suddenly twisted. Just now, she was beaten to the ground and was on the verge of death. At this time, she suddenly jumped up and fought with the two men like crazy. "Don't touch her. Don't touch her. If you have the guts, come at me." Zhuang Rongguang didn't know where he got the strength from, but he actually broke free from the two strong men and rushed to Zhuang Kuo, trying to push the tattooed man away. Chapter 1143. As a result, the man was instantly enraged. He waved his fist and roared at Zhuang Rongguang. The others who were watching also pounced on Zhuang Rongguang. "Rongguang!" Zhuang Kuo clutched her messy clothes and screamed. The next second, Zhuangke was slapped to the ground. The tattooed man pulled her hair even more roughly and dragged her to a corner. Bitch. What the hell are you screaming for? Get over here. You'll have to scream later. Sis. Let go of her. Zhuang Rongguang was surrounded and beaten up by the men. Gradually he could no longer make a sound. He could only stare in the direction Zhuangke was being dragged away. His eyes were bloodshot with tears. Seeing Zhuangke being dragged away, pressed to the ground by the man and having her clothes torn, and he could do nothing but watch helplessly as his sister was taken by the hooligan. Zhuang Rongguang felt that his heart was about to explode. His throat was already hoarse, and he could only let out a weak roar like a trapped beast in his throat. Don't touch my sister. Don't touch my sister. Don't touch my sister. Don't touch her. He had never hated himself as much as he did at that moment. He hated himself. He wanted to kill himself. He wanted nothing more than to kill himself with a single slash. He was an animal. He was an animal. Beside the warehouse door, the man with the gold chain lit a cigarette for the blondie and revealed a worried expression. Is that enough? Wasn't this a little too much? Master Gu said it was just to scare them. What's the rush? Since it's a scare, of course it has to be done. Boss wants to be a hero saving a damsel in distress to win her favor, right? The more realistic it is, the better the effect. The blondie spoke unhurriedly. The man with the gold chain looked in the direction of Zhuangke in the corner and revealed a wretched smile. I'm afraid that if this goes on, old K really won't be able to hold it in anymore. That girl is so fresh. He can't hold it in. Can't hold it in anymore? Let us brothers have some fun. The blondie looked in the direction of the tattooed man, who was clearly losing control, and sneered. The man with the gold chain's expression changed. Hey, don't mess around. That is Zhuang Liaoyuan's daughter. Tisk, so what if she's Zhuang Liaoyuan's daughter? Blondie slowly took out his phone and prepared to call his employer. However, at this moment, a person appeared at the door like a ghost. She was wearing a burgundy dress with high heels and a black windbreaker on the outside. Her naturally curly hair draped over her shoulders like seaweed. It turned out to be a woman as beautiful as a fairy. The cigarette in the man's mouth fell to the ground, and the yellow-haired man forgot to make a call. Even the man who was tearing Zhuangke's clothes was stunned when he saw the woman at the door. Xiaoxi, let's go. Let's go. Leave this place quickly. Let's go. Just now, when those people were not paying attention, Zhuangke nervously pressed a number, and then quickly and secretly sent a message for help to that number. However, when she saw that it was Ningxi's number, she regretted it. She was afraid that Ningxi would be in danger because of her. Who would have thought that the thing she was most worried about would still happen at this moment? Seeing that Ningxi actually came alone, Zhuangke's face was suddenly full of horror, and she hurriedly shouted for Ningxi to leave. At the door of the dilapidated warehouse, against the dim moonlight outside, the woman's black windbreaker fluttered in the night wind. When her gaze fell on the corner, she saw a disheveled girl who was almost pressed under a man's body. In an instant, a murderous look appeared in her eyes. The blondie at the door stared at the unexpected appearance of Ningxi, and his face was suddenly full of lust. Yo, another girl? I was just worried that I wouldn't have enough to share. However, just as he finished speaking, a gust of wind blew past and a huge force smashed into his temple. The yellow-haired man was kicked to the ground and laid there motionless. He was actually knocked unconscious by the kick. Chapter 1144. Seeing that the situation was not right, the others suddenly became vigilant and all rushed up together. However, this woman's movement was like a ghost. No matter what they did, they couldn't get close to her. Instead, they were beaten to the ground one after another. They had encountered countless powerful policemen and escaped from the pursuit of the police countless times. But they had never encountered such a powerful opponent. This woman, who was she with a cold and expressionless face? Ningxi stepped on the men who were rolling on the ground and wailing, and walked step by step to Zhuangke. Xiaoxi. Zhuangke covered her body with her arms, trembling uncontrollably. Ningxi calmly took off her windbreaker and wrapped it tightly around Zhuangke. Xiaoxi. Be careful. Zhuang Kuer saw that the tattooed man behind her had gotten up with a stick in his hand and was about to hit Ningxi's head. Ningxi carefully placed Zhuang Kuer against the wall and then suddenly turned around. Instead of retreating, she moved forward. Before the stick in the man's hand fell, she kicked the man's wrist. The stick fell to the ground with a bang, and then the man was kicked to the ground. Until he fell to the ground, the man still didn't know why this woman's moves could be so fast, and each move accurately hit his fatal point. Ningxi looked down at the tattooed man who was beaten to the ground, and then at the man who had just bullied Zhuang Kuer. Then without a word, she bent down and squatted in front of him, grabbed his collar, and the next second, she punched the man's face hard, and then another, and another. The girl's face was hollow and expressionless, as if she was isolated from the outside world. She was completely immersed in her own world. Her movements were mechanical as she punched the man again and again. The empty warehouse kept emitting horrifying sounds of bang, 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 bang. The man's face was almost unrecognizable, and Ningxi's hands were completely dyed red with blood. She couldn't tell if it was the man's blood, or if it was the blood from her own hand when she hit the man with too much force. However, she didn't stop at all. Her punches were fiercer and fiercer, and her eyes didn't seem to be human. She was like a devil who had climbed out of hell. Everyone present was stunned. The men just now all fell to the ground, their legs weak, their faces full of fear. Even Zhuang Rongguang and Zhuang Kuer were terrified. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded behind Ningxi. "Bitch! Stop! Raise your hands!" The man with the golden chain was actually holding a gun in his hand, and the black muzzle was pointing at Ningxi's head. Zhuang Rongguang and Zhuang Kuer's faces instantly changed. Xiaoxi. Ningxi's attention was attracted. She dropped the tattooed man and wiped the blood off the corner of her mouth with the back of her hand. Her eyes fell on the gun in the hands of the man with the golden chain. "Raise your hands. Get over here. Take off your own clothes." The man with the golden chain roared. Xiaoxi. Zhuang Kuer was so anxious that her eyes turned red. "Your target is me, isn't it? Let her go." "I was, but I'm not anymore. This bitch hurt so many of our brothers, and she wants to let it go like this? No way." The men who had just fallen to the ground struggled to get up and surrounded Ningxi fiercely. The atmosphere was extremely tense. "Rongguang, cover Kuer's eyes," Ningxi said calmly. Zhuang Rongguang didn't know what was going on with him. Before his brain could react, his body had quickly followed Ningxi's request. He stumbled over and covered Zhuang Kuer's eyes. At the moment when Zhuang Rongguang covered Zhuang Kuer's eyes, a bang, sound of a gunshot rang out in the empty night sky. The man with the golden chain fell to the ground with his eyes wide open, and there was a bloody bullet hole in the middle of his forehead. And in Ningxi's hand, there was a gun pointing straight at the place where the man with the golden chain stood just now. Chapter 1145. When the leading man with the gold chain fell to the ground with a bloody bullet hole in his forehead, the faces of all the thugs who had surrounded Ningxi changed. One of them subconsciously touched his waist, and sure enough, it was empty. The gun in the woman's hand was clearly his gun, and he didn't know when she had touched it. Damn it! Out of the 3 leaders in their group, one of them had fainted after being kicked by this woman as soon as she entered. Another had been smashed into a bloody mess by her fists, and the last one had been killed with a single blow. These 3 people had only recently started to move around the capital. It was rumored that they were ruthless characters in the underworld, mingling in major casinos to do white flower business, and even had channels to get firearms. Now all of them were killed by a woman. If Ningxi, who was beating people with a cold face just now, was a lunatic, then at this moment, when she held a gun in her hand, she was simply a machine without feelings, full of murderous aura. In the face of a living human life, even people like them would tremble a little when holding a gun, but the woman in front of them, from taking out the gun to aiming to kill, from the beginning to the end, it only took half a second. This was not a delicate beauty. She was simply a female devil. Zhuang Rongguang covered Zhuang Kuer's eyes, but he himself saw the scene of Ningxi shooting and killing people, and his face was pale without a trace of blood. Although he was born in a military family, this was the first time in his life that he had seen someone kill someone with his own eyes. just a few steps away from him. A living human life was gone just like that. Under the influence of his father and grandfather, he more or less knew that even if he was talented in shooting, it was completely different from actual combat. Even professional police and snipers, many of them trained for many years, but they still didn't dare to shoot at a living person. And after the first killing, they even had to go through a long period of psychological counseling. But Ningxi, whether before or after shooting, the expression on her face didn't change at all. Zhuang Rongguang was shocked by the bloody scene in front of him. Seeing a living person being killed in front of him, his heart was filled with extreme fear. But more than that, he deeply admired the woman in front of him, as well as despised himself even more intensely. Although he was stupid, he wasn't that stupid. The moment he saw the man with the golden chain holding a gun, he realized that these people were definitely not ordinary hooligans. How could ordinary hooligans have guns? If it weren't for Ningxi's spear just now, they would have already launched a crazy counterattack. As for him, not only did he implicate his sister, when his sister was being bullied, he could only watch helplessly without the slightest chance to retaliate. Xiaoxi. The moment Zhuang Ke heard the gunshot, she was swept by great panic and forcibly pulled Zhuang Rongguang's hand away from her eyes. Seeing that it was the man with the golden chain who fell down, and Ningxi was still standing there, unscathed, Zhuang Ke felt relieved. At the same time, her eyes were full of worry. That shot was fired by Xiaoxi? Filthy whore. You're dead meat. You killed someone. You actually killed someone. One of the thugs struggled to suppress his fear and shouted in a trembling voice. Chapter 1146. Ningxi's expression was as if she had heard a funny joke. Her lips curled up slightly. So? Do you want me to help you call the police? You. The few thugs looked at each other, their faces pale, unable to say a word. These three people had boasted in front of them when they were drunk, saying that they were the most wanted criminals on the police's red tape, and even bragged about how many police officers they had killed. Wanted criminals of that level, if they were caught, they would be shot immediately. How would they dare to call the police? Privately setting up a casino, kidnapping for ransom, attempted rape, and harboring a fugitive. All of them would have to go to jail. The few of them looked at each other, and came to the conclusion that this woman in front of them was scarier than the three bullies combined. It was better to run. Thus, the few of them broke into a run. However, they had just taken a few steps when a woman's cold voice came from behind. Stop. Everyone subconsciously stopped in their tracks. Did I allow you to leave? The woman's tone was like a summon from hell, causing everyone's calves to tremble subconsciously. Ningxi slightly lowered her eyes, concealing a trace of the bloodthirsty excitement and madness of a wild beast before a hunt. She deliberately did not call the police, but came alone. How could she allow them to leave so easily tonight? No one can leave. Ningxi's gaze swept past those people like the gaze of death, her tone without a trace of warmth. Just now, who else touched her? No, I didn't. I didn't either. I swear I didn't touch a single hair on her. They were the ones who caught her just now. In an instant, everyone began to look flustered, swearing to deny, almost swearing 18 generations of their ancestors into it. Ningxi's gaze slowly fell on one of the men who was hiding behind a few people, preparing to sneak away. Just now, when the tattooed man was tearing Ku'er's clothes, it was him who helped to hold Ku'er's hands and feet. The moment that man noticed Ningxi's gaze, he knew something was wrong. However, he did not have the time to escape. A bang sound was heard. The next second, accompanied by a pig-like wail, the man's wrist exploded into a flower of blood, rolling on the ground because of the pain. In the empty warehouse, mournful wails were incessant. Blood flowed all over the ground. Damn bitch. I want your life. The man suddenly cursed and pulled out a pistol with his other hand, but the moment he raised the gun in Ningxi's hand was knocked down. He covered his hand and rolled on the ground, wailing. This woman's gun was inhumanly fast. Beauty, spare my life. Big sis, please spare my life. We didn't even lay a finger on your friend. Really believe us. Those who had guns were crippled. Not to mention those who were unarmed. No one even had the heart to resist. The remaining people all knelt down one after another with a plop sound. However, Ningxi didn't look like she was going to let them go. The murderous aura around her was getting stronger and stronger, and the gun in her hand was pointed directly at the head of the monkey-like man. Now that both of his hands were crippled, he had no ability to resist at all. He was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Chapter 1147. Big Sister. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I don't know anything. I'm just a minion that runs errands for others. I'll do whatever the boss says. Every debt has its debtor, and it has nothing to do with me. The monkey-faced man was completely overwhelmed by fear at this moment. He looked at the gun pointed at him and screamed for mercy. You touched her. The woman's expression did not change at all. That gaze, she really wanted to kill him. I didn't. I just grabbed that girl's hand. No. I didn't mean it. I beg you to spare my life. I beg you. The man's legs were trembling, and there was a stinky yellow liquid dripping from his crotch. He was actually scared to the point of losing control. Ningxi did not have the patience to listen to the man's nonsense. Instead, because of his noise, the hostility in her eyes became more out of control. The picture of Zhuang Ku'er being pressed under the man's body and raped repeatedly appeared in her mind. That picture gradually merged with the scene 5 years ago. It made her head hurt and it became more and more difficult for her to control herself. Ningxi's finger pulled the trigger harder and harder, and was about to pull the trigger in the next second. Just then, a pair of warm and soft arms suddenly rushed over and hugged her from behind. Xiaoxi, enough. Calm down. I'm fine. Look at me. Xiaoxi, calm down, okay? Xiaoxi. The girl's anxious and worried voice rang in her ears again and again. Ningxi's stiff back gradually softened, and the scarlet color in her eyes also went out little by little, and her eyes became dark again. At the moment when Ningxi put down the gun, those people immediately seized the opportunity to run out. Ningxi glanced at those people out of the corner of her eye, and raised her hand to shoot at the feet of one of the men who was carrying a box. The man screamed and was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He hurriedly and respectfully delivered the box in his hand to the she-devil's side before he stumbled away. Damn it! That was 5 million. Forget it. It was more important to stay alive. In that box was the 5 million that Zhuang Ku'er raised overnight. We've got the money back. Xiaoxi, let's get out of here. Zhuang Ku'er hurriedly urged, fearing that there would be another accident. You guys go first. I'll clean up the scene, Ningxi said. But you. Zhuang Ku'er was obviously worried about her. Go. Ningxi patted Zhuang Ku'er's shoulder with a gentle expression. Then, her gaze shot towards Zhuang Rongguang like an ice blade. Get over here and help your sister. Oh. Zhuang Rongguang scrambled to get up. Because he was in a hurry, he tripped over the body of the man with the golden chain. He staggered and almost fell. Only then did he quickly run to Zhuang Ku'er and carefully help her out. Ningxi cleverly cleaned up all the traces she had left at the scene, and then called the police. Generally, such a situation would only be defined by the police as a gang fight to the death. What's more, after a few fights just now, she discovered that the 3 people leading the group were not ordinary hooligans. They also had the accent of the Golden Triangle, the paradise for drug dealers. They were most likely a group of criminals on the register. How did Zhuang Rongguang offend such a person? Ningxi didn't have time to think and quickly left the scene, her figure disappearing into the vast night. Chapter 1148. On the road, Zhuang Ku'er waited anxiously beside the car for a long time. When she saw Ningxi come out, she finally breathed a sigh of relief and hurried to greet her. Xiaoxi, let's go. Ningxi opened the door of the passenger seat and quickly helped Zhuang Ku'er into the car. Zhuang Rongguang shrank in the back seat of the car like a quail without saying a word. Zhuang Ku'er subconsciously gathered Ningxi's coat and said uneasily, If I go home and am seen by the servants, it may be very troublesome to explain. Go to my place first. Okay. Zhuang Ku'er nodded and looked at the girl who was driving with slightly red eyes. Xiaoxi, I'm really sorry about what happened tonight. At that time, I was in a hurry and didn't think much before sending the text message. Later, I was afraid that if something bad happened to you because of me, I really couldn't absolve myself from the blame. I'm really sorry. Ningxi glanced at Zhuang Ke from the rearview mirror. Her eyes were no longer as bloody as they had been in the warehouse. She said softly, "Don't say sorry. I'm very happy that you think of me at this time." Looking at Ningxi's gentle look, Zhuang Ke couldn't tell what she felt. She took out a tissue and wiped the blood on Ningxi's cheek. "But, Xiaoxi, how did you get here so fast?" "I've been on a business trip in another province these days. I'm flying back to the capital tonight. I saw your text message on the way home by taxi from the airport. Fortunately, the car was not far from here. Otherwise, if she had been one step late, she couldn't imagine what would have happened." Hearing this, Zhuang Ke showed a look of understanding, and then her face was full of worry. "Xiaoxi, will this matter affect you? After all, you just..." Ningxi tilted her head and gave Zhuang Ke a reassuring look. "Trust my anti-tracking ability." "Okay." Zhuang Ke nodded hard. She trusted the person in front of her unconditionally, and without reason. In the back seat, Zhuang Rongguang stared at Ningxi in a trance. In his eyes, there was a kind of yearning and longing that he didn't even notice. He wanted to be such a person who could be relied on, a person who could be trusted and relied on unreservedly. He wanted to be a real man. Half an hour later, Ningxi drove the car to her villa. Entering the room, Ningxi immediately found a set of clean clothes for Zhuang Ke. "Go take a hot bath and change your clothes." "Yes." After Zhuang Ke left to take a shower, Zhuang Rongguang stood in the living room at a loss. He had thought that with Ningxi's temper, she would definitely scold him, and perhaps even beat him half to death. So he had long been prepared to face everything. In the end, Ningxi didn't even look at him, let alone scold him. It was as if he was invisible and completely ignored. Ningxi's indifferent attitude made him feel worse than scolding or beating him up. After a while, Zhuang Ke came out of the shower. Ningxi asked Steamed Bun to bring her the medical kit, and then called Zhuang Ke to sit beside her. "Come here, let me have a look at your injuries." Ningxi only took a quick glance, and saw that Zhuang Ke's wrists and neck were full of shocking strangulation marks. Her snow-white skin made them even more glaring, not to mention the green and purple marks on her exposed skin. Chapter 1149. Seeing Ningxi's face becoming more and more gloomy, and even faintly showing some of the emotions that she had lost control in the warehouse, Zhuang Ke hurriedly took her hand and comforted her. "Xiaoxi, it's not a big deal. It's just a superficial wound." However, hearing this, Ningxi's face did not show any signs of improvement. This was just a superficial wound. For any woman, the trauma that such an incident would bring to their hearts, and even the fear that would affect their entire lives in the future, could not be measured by the number of external wounds. Moreover, Zhuang Ke was an innocent girl who had been well protected since she was a child. She had never been wronged like this and encountered such a terrible thing since she was a child. Fortunately, she came in time and those people did not succeed. Otherwise, she would not let any of them go tonight, including Zhuang Rongguang. Ningxi took a deep breath and finally restrained the raging gloomy aura around her. She gently applied medicine to Zhuang Ke's wound. "It's a little painful. Bear with it." Zhuang Ke was afraid that Ningxi would lose control again, so she did not dare to cry out in pain. She repeatedly comforted her. "It's okay, it doesn't hurt much." In the corner, Zhuang Rongguang, who had not said a word since they arrived at the warehouse, stared blankly at the terrible bruises on Zhuang Ke's body. In his mind, the scene that Zhuang Ke was bullied by those people and he could not even move a finger was replayed crazily. The gloomy clouds around the boy became denser and denser, and the pressure became lower and lower. In the end, it seemed that he had finally reached the limit and suddenly exploded. Zhuang Rongguang's fists creaked and his back trembled more and more violently. In the quiet living room, the boy's throat uttered intermittent sobs and whimpers like a trapped beast. And then, the sound became louder and louder. Hearing the sound behind her, Ningxi stopped applying medicine to Zhuang Ke's wound. She turned around and looked at the boy who was covered in blood and ashes and crying uncontrollably with scarlet eyes. To be honest, the person she wanted to kill the most in the warehouse was Zhuang Rongguang. The reason why she had not spoken to Zhuang Rongguang, or even looked at him, was that she was afraid that she would lose control. With her temper, it was a waste of air to keep such a scumbag alive. Ningxi treated the last wound on Zhuang Ke's body. Then, she put down the medicine bottle in her hand, and closed the lid of the medicine box. She looked up at the boy calmly. Zhuang Rongguang, you want freedom, you want to be unrestrained. You want to live a life without being controlled by anyone, right? Well, let me tell you, whether it's smoking, drinking, fighting, racing, or gambling, that's right, it's all your freedom. You are already 18 years old, an adult. You have the right to choose the life you want. Even your parents have no right to decide your future. You can do whatever you want. At this point, Ningxi's eyes suddenly turned cold. But the premise is that you have the ability to bear all the consequences of your choice. If not, then don't fucking say not to interfere with your life all day long, while letting your loved ones worry about you and put themselves in danger. Asking a girl who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken to raise 5 million in the middle of the night, and rush to such a chaotic and dangerous place to get money to ransom you. Ask yourself, are you still a man? Zhuang Rongguang choked with tears and walked to Zhuang Ke. He knelt down and slapped himself hard in the face. Sister. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Chapter 1150. Sister, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Seeing her brother kneeling in front of her and crying, Zhuang Ke felt sorry for him, but she also felt helpless. She had watched him become like this step by step over the years. She was so numb that she didn't have any hope for him. She didn't expect him to make great achievements, nor did she want him to be the leader of the Liu family in the future. Her only hope was that he could live safely. But now he almost lost his life. She was at her wits' end with her brother. But now, seeing his apologetic and remorseful look, she didn't dare to have any hope. No one knew if he would return to his original self after the incident. Last time, he went to practice shooting because of Ningxi, and it only lasted for a few days. Zhuang Ke's belly full of words finally turned into a helpless sigh. Get up. Don't go to that kind of place again. Zhuang Rongguang nodded hard, wiped his tears and stood up. Where are your two friends, Sun Bin and Liang Haoqiang? Are they all right? Zhuang Ke suddenly remembered and hurriedly asked with concern. As far as she knew, Rongguang was always inseparable from his two best friends. The two of them were famous hedonistic sons in the capital. They were ignorant and incompetent. When the three of them got together, they stirred up trouble all day long. Therefore, they must have played a part in this incident. Zhuang Rongguang's face changed when he heard Zhuang Ke mention those two people. Oh, those two people. Once something happened, they ran away without a trace. Until now, they didn't even call him. They didn't even care about his life. Both of them had their cards blocked by their families. He was the only one who could still get a little from Zhuang Ke, and he had to share it with them every time. He thought that he was very generous and righteous, but who knew that he was just a sucker, a complete idiot? Zhuang Ke seemed to have guessed something from his expression. She sighed and didn't ask anymore. They probably ran away and didn't have time to care about him. She had told him countless times not to associate with those messy people. But every time she mentioned it, he would fly into a rage and say that she didn't respect his friends. Then they parted on bad terms and he didn't go home for a few days. Now are you going back or staying here for one night? Ningxi asked. Xiaoxi, can I stay here for one night? Zhuang Ke asked tentatively. Ningxi nodded. Of course. Zhuang Ke immediately became happy. Then I'll leave a message to the nanny. Zhuang Rongguang raised his hand weakly. I want to stay here too. Would that work? Sister Ning. Ningxi glanced at him expressionlessly. The sofa. Zhuang Rongguang immediately said. No problem. He could even sleep on the floor. I'll guard the door for you in the living room. Ke, sleep with me tonight. Ningxi said to Zhuang Ke. Well, okay. Zhuang Ke naturally couldn't ask for more. He went into the bedroom. Ningxi made the bed, and then they lay on the bed. In order to prevent Zhuang Ke from having nightmares at night, Ningxi had been looking for a relaxing and interesting topic to chat with her to distract her. Zhuang Ke lay on the soft and comfortable mattress that emitted the scent of sunshine. Beside him was the girl's warm and sweet scent. and in his ears was a soft tone. The last trace of fear in his heart was gone. Chapter 1151. It turned out that this was how it felt to have a friend with whom she could share her happiness and troubles and sleep in the same bed with at night. How nice. Xiaoxi, thank you. I'm really not afraid at all. At the beginning, I was really scared and desperate. I was confused. But fortunately you came. So it's okay now. You don't have to worry about me anymore. While Ningxi was comforting Zhuangke was also comforting her. That's good. Go to sleep. Okay, good night. At night, the two girls snuggled up to sleep. Although Ningxi closed her eyes, she didn't fall asleep until she heard a steady breathing sound beside her. At night, Zhuangke slept soundly. There was a faint warmth on her face. She didn't panic or have nightmares at all. Ningxi's heart, which had been in her throat all this time, slowly relaxed. Fortunately, she didn't want to see another her. She tried her best to stop this from happening and comforted Zhuangke. As if she was saving herself. Just then, there was a light knock on the door. Ningxi got up slightly. Come in. The door was gently pushed open and Zhuang Rongguang stood quietly at the door. Sister Shi, is my sister asleep? Ningxi, yes. Zhuang Rongguang looked at Ningxi and hesitated. Sister Shi, can I talk to you? Ningxi glanced at him, gently lifted the quilt, and got out of bed. In the living room, Zhuang Rongguang stood in front of Ningxi as if he had nowhere to put his hands and feet. Then he quickly rushed to the side and dragged a chair to Ningxi's side. Sister Shi, sit down. Then he poured her a glass of water and brought it to her. Then he stood in front of her, twisting and turning, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't. Ningxi picked up the glass, took a sip of water and squinted at the hesitant boy. Just say it. Zhuang Rongguang bit his lip and hung his head. After hesitating for a long time, he said listlessly, Sister Shi, can I still be saved? Ningxi raised her eyes and glanced at the nervous boy, who seemed to be waiting for her to pronounce his death sentence. God helps those who help themselves. You can still stand here today and ask me this question, which means that you can still be saved. Hearing this, Zhuang Rongguang's tense back suddenly relaxed a little. His eyes were slightly red. I know the story of the boy who cried wolf. I'm afraid that no matter what I say now, you won't believe me. But this time, I will prove it with my actions. Zhuang Rongguang stared at Ningxi with bright eyes and said excitedly, Sister Shi, I want to be a man like you in the future. The corners of Ningxi's mouth twitched. Your dream. No, the main point is, damn it, I'm a woman. Sister Shi, what did you do before? Is he really just an ordinary actor? Zhuang Rongguang asked with excitement and curiosity. Ningxi's eyes flickered. What if I say no? Zhuang Rongguang was shocked by the dangerous glint in the girl's eyes. He then said firmly, no matter what you did in the past, good or evil, good or bad, you treated my sister so well and helped us so much. In my heart, you're a good person. Besides, being kind to the enemy is being cruel to yourself. You were so manly when you shot him. Thank you. Chapter 1152. Late at night, in a high-class villa area in the imperial capital, Ningxi paced back and forth in the living room, her face full of anger. I waited all night for your call, and now you're telling me that there was an accident. You keep saying that it's foolproof and that you don't need me to teach you how to do things, but you can't even handle a girl like Zhuangke and that good-for-nothing Zhuang Rongguang. Is this how you do things? Little girl, you were the one who said that Zhuangke wouldn't dare to tell the Zhuang family because of Zhuang Rongguang, but now all my people are dead. It's obviously the Zhuang family. I've lost 3 people on my side because of your trivial matter, and you still dare to yell at me? The voice on the other end of the phone was obviously very angry. No matter what, this is all because of your incompetence. You must think of a way to solve this problem. It was already risky for you to touch the Zhuang family, but now you've alerted them. Do you want me to get involved because of this? This matter ends here. The voice on the other end of the phone hung up. You. Hello. Ningxi threw the phone hard, her face full of anger. The next morning, outside the house, the sun was shining brightly, birds were singing, and flowers were fragrant. Pink petals were blowing from the hillside not far away, along with the spring breeze, and the air was filled with a faint fragrance. Zhuang Rongguang, who used to laze in bed and be late for class every day, actually woke up early in the morning. Then, he quietly drove to a famous breakfast snack shop in the capital far away, and went to buy breakfast for his two sisters at home. Not long after Zhuang Rongguang left, a black Maybach drove slowly and stopped in front of the retro and quiet building. Lu Tingxiao pushed the door open and got out of the car, then went to the back seat and carried his son out. As soon as he got out of the car, Xiao Baozi twisted his body to the ground and quickly ran to the door. After running to the door, the little fellow was stunned. Because he was not tall enough, he could not press the password lock. Therefore, the little fellow could only bear the humiliation and turned around, opening his short arms, indicating that he wanted his father to carry him. Lu Tingxiao looked at his son anxiously, stretching out his short arms to hug him. He stood there with his arms crossed, showing no intention of hugging him. His attitude was clear: call him daddy. Little Baozi naturally knew what Papa meant. He puffed his cheeks, and his big eyes were filled with anger and accusation. Finally, the little fellow took out a small black remote control from somewhere. After fiddling with it for a while, the door opened from the inside with a click. Welcome home, cute and adorable mommy's favorite little master. The person who opened the door was the robot Mantu. Little Bun touched the steamed bun as a reward, then looked at her papa proudly. Lu Tingxiao lowered his eyes and chuckled. His expression was helpless and doting. His son being too smart was also a headache, but who could he blame for inheriting it? After the door opened, Little Bun immediately ran in. Lu Tingxiao watched as his son tiptoed and gently opened the door to his mother's bedroom. Strangely, this time he didn't go in immediately like he usually did. Instead, he squatted at the door and looked a little hesitant. What's wrong? Lu Tingxiao subconsciously walked in the direction of the bedroom. As soon as he approached, he saw that there were two bumps on Ningxi's bed. Clearly, there were two people lying there. Chapter 1153. Ningxi was sleeping soundly, and beside her was Zhuang Ku'er, who was wearing Ningxi's pajamas and intimately leaning into Ningxi's embrace. Lu Tingxiao's face instantly darkened. She had gone on a business trip for so long, and came back in the middle of the night. Not to see him, but to sleep with another woman for the whole night? Zhuang Ku'er didn't know if it was because she felt this strong resentment, but she opened her eyes in a daze. When she saw Lu Tingxiao at the door, she was startled. At the same time, Ningxi also woke up. The moment she saw Lu Tingxiao, her expression changed. She turned over and sat up. She immediately said, "Fuck. Wifey, let me explain." Lu Tingxiao. As soon as Ningxi said this, she felt that something was wrong. Fuck. She was in a daze. It was all Zhuang Rongguang's fault. Last night, she kept saying man and man, making her think that she was really a man. Ningxi coughed lightly and scratched her head. She hurriedly switched back to her normal state. "Lord Boss, why are you here?" My steamed bun is here too. Go wait outside first. Mama will be up soon." Little Bun nodded obediently, and then obediently went to the living room. Lu Tingxiao pinched his eyebrows. "You guys change first." Then he gently closed the door. Ningxi was looking for clothes for herself and Zhuang Ku'er to change into. When she turned her head, she saw Zhuang Ku'er sitting on the bed with an unhappy expression. She immediately asked anxiously, "Ku'er, what's wrong?" Zhuang Ku'er looked up at Ningxi and mumbled, "I don't know why, but I feel that Lu Tingxiao seems to hate me." The corner of Ningxi's mouth twitched. "Why do you care about him? It's fine as long as I like you." Zhuang Ku'er nodded. Only then did she feel a little happier. Ningxi's words were domineering, but her little heart was already thumping. It was obvious that the great Demon King's epic vinegar jar had been overturned again. Ningxi put on her clothes and walked to the living room. Little Bun immediately ran over, looking as if a day apart felt like 3 years. Ningxi happily picked up little steamed bun and rubbed her face against his soft little face. Steamed bun, I missed you so much. Mama, give me a kiss." Out of the corner of her eye, Ningxi saw Lu Tingxiao sitting on the sofa in his elegant and cold attire. After coaxing Little Bun, she immediately leaned over and kissed the corner of the man's lips. she whispered in the man's ear in a voice that little Bun couldn't hear. Of course. I miss my sweetheart even more. Lu Tingxiao's face darkened, but he was still appeased by the girl's sweet words. However, he did not forget the most important question. A suspicious look appeared on his face. If I remember correctly, it was already midnight when you arrived at the capital last night. In other words, it was unreasonable for Zhuang Ke to appear at her place at this time. As he spoke, Lu Tingxiao's gaze fell on the sofa opposite him. It was obvious that someone had slept there. At this moment, the doorbell rang. Could it be that brat Zhuang Rongguang? Ningxi immediately went to open the door. It was indeed Zhuang Rongguang standing outside. Sister Shi, I've bought breakfast for you. Ningxi scratched her head, then explained to Lu Tingxiao in the tone of a primary school student reporting homework to the teacher. Actually, it's because Zhuang Rongguang got into trouble again and angered Chief Zhuang. Sokuer brought him here overnight to temporarily avoid trouble. Chapter 1154. Hearing this, Zhuang Rongguang immediately looked at Lu Tingxiao and said, Sorry brother-in-law Shi, I'm sorry to bother you. Hearing Zhuang Rongguang call him brother-in-law Shi, Lu Tingxiao's expression softened. Seeing that the crisis was over, Ningxi finally breathed a sigh of relief, and secretly gave Zhuang Rongguang a well-done look. Zhuang Rongguang looked at Ningxi with an indescribable expression. Ever since they met, every time he saw Ningxi, she would be arrogant as if she was the best in the world. This was the first time he saw her so afraid of someone. Well, was this the legendary henpecked? Zhuang Rongguang carried a dozen big and small bags in his hands. The breakfast he bought was very sumptuous, enough for the 5 of them to eat. Sister, have some buns. These are your favorite crab buns from Yixing restaurant. I couldn't get them even if I waited in line. The boss cut the line because he knew me. Zhuang Rongguang handed a delicate small box to Zhuang Ke. Then he went up to Ningxi and said, Sister Shi, I don't know what you like to eat, so I bought a little bit of everything. You can eat whatever you like. I waited in line to buy them from a famous old restaurant in the capital. Zhuang Rongguang was good at eating, drinking and playing. The breakfast he bought was indeed a famous snack in the capital, and he had lined up very early. Obviously, he had put a lot of effort into it. Thanks. Ningxi found a shrimp bun for little Bun, then handed a fruit jianbing to the devil and said softly, Mr. Boss, I'm sure you haven't eaten this before. Try it. It's delicious. After that, he eagerly fed it to the Demon King's mouth. Looking at the girl's attentive look, Lu Tingxiao was obviously satisfied. He lowered his head and took a bite of the girl's hand. How is it? Is it delicious? Ningxi asked. Brother-in-law Shi, it's cheap, but I bought the best fruit jianbing in the capital. Not bad. He didn't care where he bought it. It was purely because his wife fed him. During breakfast, Zhuang Rongguang's gaze fell on Lu Tingxiao. He looked at Lu Tingxiao with even more reverence than when he looked at Ningxi. He had heard of Lu Tingxiao before. When he heard that his family had the intention of marrying into the Lu family, he was very disdainful. He thought that Lu Tingxiao was just an ordinary businessman who made a lot of money. But now he had completely changed his view. How could a man who could handle Sister Shi and make her behave like a woman in front of him be an ordinary person? I'm getting more and more curious. How did he deal with Sister Shi? After breakfast, the siblings also knew that Ningxi had just returned from a business trip for a long time, so they sensibly proposed to leave without disturbing the family of 3. Before leaving, Zhuang Rongguang sneaked up to Lu Tingxiao while Ningxi was talking to Zhuang Ke. He asked the question that he had been thinking about during the meal. Well, Brother Shi, can I ask you a question? Ask. Ahem, I'm just curious. How did you deal with Sister Shi? Zhuang Rongguang asked humbly. Hearing this, Lu Tingxiao glanced at the boy out of the corner of his eye and then pondered. Zhuang Rongguang held his breath and waited for his answer. After a while Lu Tingxiao finally said, Beauty. Zhuang Rongguang. The author's Weibo is doing a lucky draw. Those who are interested can go and have a try my Sina Weibo ID. The charming Weibo. Chapter 1155. Zhuang Mansion. After Zhuang Ke and Zhuang Rongguang reached home, Zhuang Rongguang spent a lot of effort to dig out his moldy school bag from his messy room. The textbooks in the bag were almost all brand new. There was also a brand new English dictionary and learning machine. All the stationery was very complete. Zhuang Ke had personally prepared it for him. Zhuang Rongguang patted the dust off his school bag, and then rummaged through the messy wardrobe for a set of high school uniform that he had never worn before. There was a shiny school badge on the uniform, which was engraved with the words, Imperial Capital Hongwen High School. After finding the school uniform and bag, Zhuang Rongguang found a hairdresser and went to the bathroom. He changed his most treasured and cool hairstyle into an old-fashioned crew cut that he hated the most. Zhuang Rongguang used a towel to wipe the hair on his face and neck. He stared at himself in the mirror for a long time, until tears welled up in his eyes uncontrollably. The young man's fingers were on the washstand. He took a deep breath and forced back his tears. He then went back to his bedroom, put on his school uniform, and carried his school bag. Zhuang Rongguang closed the door and left his bedroom. When he passed by Zhuang Ke's room, Zhuang Rongguang stopped in his tracks. He looked at the delicate figure in the room who had always protected him. He called out softly, "Sis." Zhuang Ke was folding clothes in the room. When she heard the voice, she subconsciously looked towards the door. The next second, when she saw the young man at the door, she was stunned. "You." Rongguang. The young man was tall and straight. He was wearing a damp blue school uniform, and had a school bag on his back. His neat short hair made him look very spirited, especially the light in the young man's eyes, which were sparkling like the rising sun. This is her brother? Although he was still the same person, he looked like a completely different person. She had never seen him like this before. For a moment, Zhuang Ke almost couldn't recognize him. She stood there in a daze for a long time. Zhuang Rongguang looked at his sister in front of him and greeted her. "Sis, I'm going to school." Hearing her brother's words, Zhuang Ke snapped out of her daze and said reflexively, "Oh, go ahead, it's still early, be careful." "Okay, got it." Zhuang Rongguang nodded and looked at Zhuang Ke. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he said nothing and left without looking back. "Sister," she said, "that a man should act, not talk." Zhuang Ke stood there in a daze for a long time, then hurriedly ran to the balcony. Standing on the balcony, she stared blankly at Zhuang Rongguang's back as he left with his backpack. Her eyes were filled with bitterness. That 18-year-old boy seemed to have grown up overnight. Capital Hongwen High School. Zhuang Rongguang was actually quite good-looking. It was just that he was always dressed like a punk. He would cause trouble all day long and interact with bad people outside the school. His classmates would shake their heads and avoid him whenever they saw him. It was rush hour. Zhuang Rongguang was dressed in his school uniform and had short hair. He carried his school bag on one shoulder and had one hand in his pocket as he walked along the tree-lined road in front of the school. He attracted a lot of attention along the way, especially from the female students. They gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and chattered away. "Wow! Who is that guy? So handsome. I don't know her. I've never seen him before. I didn't know there was such a handsome guy in our school. Why do I think he looks a bit like Zhuang Rongguang? Zhuang Rongguang? That punk. Are you fucking kidding me?" More and more people were talking. Finally, one of the girls said impatiently, "Stupid, just call him and you'll know if he's the one." With that, she made a trumpet shape with her hands and shouted at the back of the boy in front of her, "Hey, Zhuang Rongguang! Zhuang Rongguang!" When Zhuang Rongguang heard someone calling him, he subconsciously stopped in his tracks and turned around. "What's the matter?" Chapter 1156. Behind him, the jaws of all the students who were talking about him dropped to the ground. Fuck! It's really Zhuang Rongguang. Did that kid go for plastic surgery? Could it be that plastic surgery can also change the brain? Ha 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 ha, that's right. Can plastic surgery cure a retard? There was a burst of laughter and discussion. Based on Zhuang Rongguang's temper in the past, he would have rushed up to pick a fight with his fists. However, perhaps because of the life and death situation last night, he felt that he was so childish that he wanted to slap himself. These people were right. He was indeed a retard in the past. Seeing Zhuang Rongguang turn his head and see them laughing at him, but he did not say a word. He just turned around and walked back to the school building. Everyone was surprised. What's going on? Did he take the wrong medicine? I think his family messed with him. Did his family mess with him enough? He's just mud that can't hold up a wall. I feel like I've been stimulated by something. Hey, why are you talking so much? Isn't it good to have another handsome guy in school? You guys can have school Hunkzhang. I'm going to pursue a new goal. A day of classes felt like a year to Zhuang Rongguang. Because he had never attended a class before, he did not understand anything. The whole day was like listening to a book from heaven, which made it even more difficult. Finally, school was over. The young man's expression was a little gloomy. Fortunately, he was only a little disappointed and did not look like he had given up. At the school gate, two people squatted in a corner not far away. They were dressed in strange clothes and had dyed hair. They had cigarettes in their hands and were staring at the stream of people leaving school while puffing out clouds of smoke. One of them took out his phone and dialed a number. Hello Photon, where are you? Why is your phone turned off when I call you? Opposite you. Zhuang Rongguang stood at the school gate and looked at his two former best friends. Sun Bin held his phone and looked around the school gate. Then, his eyes fixed on a boy who was holding a phone. The next second, the cigarette in his mouth fell to the ground. You, Photon. Zhuang Rongguang hung up and walked in front of the two. What's up? Sun Bin and Liang Haoqiang looked at the young man in front of them as if they had seen a ghost. Photon, are you okay? Zhuang Rongguang looked at the time on his phone and looked a little impatient. If you have something to say, say it. If not, I'm going home. Cough Photon, are you angry because of what happened last night? We really don't have a choice. Where are we going to raise so much money? By the way, how did you get out later? Did your sister send money over? Sun Bin asked. Did you ask for more from your sister? Let's go and recoup our losses tonight. You're so lucky. You'll definitely be able to recoup your losses today. Liang Haoqiang rubbed his hands excitedly. Last night, when he waited for the two of them, he had thought countless times that he would beat them up if he saw them again. But when it really came to this, he didn't even want to waste his energy talking to them. If he was really betrayed by his brothers, he could still be angry, but these two, what kind of brothers were they? Scram. Zhuang Rongguang directly said to the two of them, and then walked away without looking back. Chapter 1157. The Zhuang family. Recently, a few of Zhuang Liaoyuan's old comrades had come to the imperial capital from other provinces for business. Since it was rare for them to get together, Zhuang Liaoyuan specially invited them to his home as guests. Zhuang Ke methodically entertained the guests, and then went to the kitchen to instruct the servants to prepare dinner. In the living room, a middle-aged man with a 3-star epaulet on his shoulder warmly greeted. How has the old chief been recently? Father has been in the military sanatorium recently, and his body is still healthy, Zhuang Liaoyuan replied as he poured tea for them. Sister-in-law hasn't been transferred back yet? I've already reported it to the higher-ups, but I think it'll be difficult to get it approved. Sai, luckily you have Kur by your side. I haven't seen her for a few years, and she's really grown into a slender and elegant woman. I wonder which kid will be so lucky in the future. I bet even Zhuang Liaoyuan can't bear to let such a good daughter get married. Haha. Listening to the teasing of his comrades, Zhuang Liaoyuan's expression was very comforted at the mention of this daughter, who was good at everything. His wife was very secretive when it came to military research. She was stationed in the research lab all year round and couldn't come back, devoting all her time to her career and country. Zhuang Liaoyuan spent most of his time in the military, so everything at home was handled by Kur. Right, how's Rongguang recently? One of them asked casually. As soon as the question left his mouth, the other comrades beside him immediately shook their heads nervously at him. Why did he have to mention it? The person who asked the question just now seemed a little embarrassed, but the question had already been asked, and there was no way to take it back. Zhuang Liaoyuan's face was full of bitterness as he looked at the nervous expressions of his comrades, because they were worried about his reputation. He had lost all his face because of that kid, so why would he care about his reputation anymore? Even if he had a temper made of iron, he was now disheartened. Rongguang, it's still the same, Zhuang Liaoyuan said. The words the same already expressed all his helplessness. Hey, right, let me tell you guys some big news. Do you remember the 3 drug kingpins who ran away 4 years ago? Old K, Poison Eye and Dragonhead. Someone diverted everyone's attention. Remember? What's wrong? Sure enough, everyone was quite interested in this topic. They've all been caught. Old K was seriously injured, and his face was disfigured. Dragonhead was shot in the head and died on the spot. Only Poison Eye fared slightly better, with a concussion. They're all locked up in the police station. Is that so? Zhuang Liaoyuan's attention was also attracted. Who did this? We couldn't find anything. That place was remote, and there were no surveillance cameras or witnesses. Later, we found a few hooligans who usually hung out with them. Their testimonies were consistent. They all said that they got drunk and started fighting among themselves. Even Old K and Poison Eye said so themselves, and there didn't seem to be any problems from the traces at the scene. But I still feel that there's something fishy. Who cares? It didn't matter if it was a fight between themselves or someone else, it was still a good thing. Damn it, in order to catch these 3 fish that escaped the net, we lost 2 of our comrades. In the living room, Zhuang Liaoyuan and the others were chatting enthusiastically. Suddenly a familiar voice came from behind. I'm back. Oh, Gloria's back, right? Everyone looked towards the door. Chapter 1158. Why did he come back so early? Zhuang Liaoyuan had a suspicious look on his face. That brat always came back after he was done playing outside. Moreover, he had not been home recently, so he should be even more lawless. As Zhuang Liaoyuan was thinking about this, he turned around and looked at the door with a straight face. He was about to scold him like he always did when he was about to say something like, "You still know how to come back." However, when the words were about to come out of his mouth, he suddenly stopped talking. The young man who was walking in was wearing a school uniform with a backpack on his back. He had clean short hair and looked exactly like a high school student who was full of vigor. This was his son? Not only Zhuang Liaoyuan, but his other comrades were also stunned for a long time. After all, the last time they saw Zhuang Rongguang, his hair was longer than a girl's, and he was dressed in colorful clothes like a palette. Obviously, the young man in front of them was too different from the person in their memory. Uncle Zhang, Uncle Ling, Uncle Zhang. Zhuang Rongguang greeted the guests one by one. Only then did everyone come back to their senses. What an honor! I almost didn't recognize you. Isn't that right? I was stunned for a long time too. Fuck. Zhuang Liaoyuan, were you trying to act pitiful just now? You've grown up and become more sensible. Like I said, like father, like son. He's only a little more like a person now. Is he worth praising? Although Zhuang Liaoyuan was full of doubts, it was obviously not the time to ask too much. He could only casually say that. During dinner, Zhuang Rongguang was also well behaved from beginning to end. In the past, this kid hated dinners where there were many elders present. Every time, he would take a few bites and then go to his room to play games or sneak out to fool around. This time, he lasted until the whole dinner was over, and even followed him to send the guests to the door. After sending the guests off, before the suspicious Zhuang Liaoyuan could ask anything, the young man had already taken the initiative to look at his father and said, "Dad, I have something to ask of you." Zhuang Liaoyuan's eyebrows jumped. Good boy, so this was what he was waiting for. He suddenly became so obedient because he had something to ask of him? But this time, he really went all out. He even cut off his most precious hair. Zhuang Liaoyuan's face couldn't help but be a little gloomy. He had already made up his mind that if this brat dared to mention wandering the world again, he would directly cut off the relationship between him and his son, and let him wander on his own. "Tell me what's the matter?" Zhuang Liaoyuan asked in the study room with a cold expression. The young man stood in front of his father, his eyes lingering on his father's silver hair for a few seconds. After a moment of absent-mindedness, he took a deep breath and said, "Dad, I would like to ask you to hire a tutor for me, or sign up for a tuition class. The college entrance examination will be in a few months, and I know that with my grades, I won't be able to get into a university even if I suck up to them. It's meaningless to rely on my family to arrange for me to get into a normal university. So, I want to enter the army, and then continue to study while training in the army. Zhuang Liaoyuan was stunned from the first sentence the boy said. When the boy finished his long speech, he even lost his composure and looked at his son in disbelief. Zhuang Liaoyuan calmed himself down for a long time before asking, "What did you just say? You said you want to enter the army, to get into a military school? You want me to hire a tutor for you? Sign up for a tuition class? Did this kid's brain break?" Chapter 1159. Yes, the young man replied confidently. His expression did not look like he was joking at all. Why would you suddenly have such a thought? How can I believe that you're not doing this on a whim, or a nasty joke or a bet? Zhuang Liaoyuan's expression was extremely stern. The young man gritted his teeth and raised his pair of resolute eyes. Dad, I'm serious this time. As for the reason, you know that I don't have any big dreams or ambitions. I just don't want the people around me to worry about me. I just hope that when something happens, I can protect you guys. I want to be someone you can rely on, and not a burden. That's all. Hearing his son's words, Zhuang Liaoyuan could not come back to his senses for a long time. If Zhuang Rongguang had said something like, "I want to protect the country and build a career," he would not have believed a single word of it. However, this was what he had said. Just as Zhuang Liaoyuan was filled with doubts, Zhuang Rongguang took out a terrifying long whip from behind his back and raised it in front of his father with both hands. "Dad, I wanted to listen to my sister and hide it from you. But I really couldn't get over it." The young man's body trembled slightly, probably because he recalled what had happened last night. "Yesterday, I left home in order to get some money. I listened to Sun Bin and Liang Haoqiang, and went to the casino. In the end, I fell into someone's trap and lost 5 million. What did you say?" Hearing this short sentence, Zhuang Liaoyuan slammed the table and stood up. His expression changed abruptly. Zhuang Rongguang moved forward on his knees and placed the whip on the desk in front of Zhuang Liaoyuan. He then continued, "Those people were not locals. One look and I knew they were not to be trifled with. Moreover, they had the advantage in numbers. At that time, I was hoping that Sun Bin and Liang Haoqiang would raise money to ransom me. I didn't expect that in the end they wouldn't come." "Hey, you were hoping that these two brats would raise money to ransom you?" Zhuang Liaoyuan's face was gloomy. "How did I, Zhuang Liaoyuan, have such a stupid son like you? Then I did something even more stupid." Zhuang Rongguang's voice was hoarse. "I didn't dare tell my family, and there was no one else I could ask for help. In desperation, I could only call my sister." "Bastard!" Zhuang Liaoyuan smashed the teacup in his hand. At the same time, a strong sense of foreboding appeared in his mind, causing his expression to change. "Did something happen to your sister last night? Tell me." If Ku'er hadn't met with some accident, how could this brat have changed so much? With his experience, it was easy for him to imagine what might have happened last night. When he thought of what might have happened to Ku'er, Zhuang Liaoyuan's mind felt like it was falling apart. "My sister has already brought enough money over according to their request, but they still won't let her go. They said that they want to charge interest, and they want my sister to stay with them for a night." In the next second, the whip in Zhuang Liaoyuan's hand landed on the young man's shoulder. Zhuang Rongguang was immediately whipped to the ground. At this time, the door was pushed open from the outside. Zhuang Ku'er rushed in anxiously and shielded Zhuang Rongguang to stop her father from hitting him again. "Rongguang, didn't I tell you not to tell father? What's wrong with you?" Zhuang Rongguang's face was pale from the pain. "Sister, I don't want to hide in your arms anymore. I will bear the burden. I deserve it." Chapter 1160. Ku'er, get out of my way. I'm going to kill this bastard today. Zhuang Liaoyuan was completely overwhelmed by anger. "I shouldn't have been soft-hearted last time. I shouldn't have been soft-hearted. But your sister was hurt. Why didn't he just shoot this bastard last time? Why?" Zhuang Liaoyuan was completely overwhelmed by remorse. More than that, he blamed himself for his incompetence. If his wife came back and knew all this, how could he explain it to her? And his father? At the thought of these things, he wished he could shoot himself and chase this guy to hell. Seeing her father completely out of control, Zhuang Ku'er hurriedly shouted, "Dad! I'm fine. I'm fine. Nothing happened to me last night." How could Zhuang Liaoyuan believe his daughter's words? He roared with scarlet eyes. "Nothing happened to me. This guy can kneel in front of me now. Ku'er, get out of my way." "Dad, I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying. I was almost bullied by those people last night, but Xiaoxi arrived in time to save me and Rongguang. Rongguang and I spent the night at Xiaoxi's place and came back this morning. If you don't believe me, you can ask Xiaoxi." "Xiaoxi?" Zhuang Liaoyuan was stunned. "Yes. Dad, the 3 drug dealers you and your comrades talked about today. According to your description, they seem to be the 3 people last night. One of them was killed by Xiaoxi with a gun she snatched, the other was knocked out, and the last one was beaten beyond recognition, because when Xiaoxi came here, she saw this person bullying me and beat him up the most. So it should be the 3 of them, there's no mistake." Zhuang Ku'er explained as quickly as she could. Hearing this, Zhuang Liaoyuan's uncontrollable anger finally subsided a little. "What you said is all true. It's absolutely true. Dad, think about it. If something really happened to me last night, how could I still be fine today?" Zhuang Ku'er said hurriedly. Hearing this, Zhuang Liaoyuan's tense face relaxed a little, and he finally completely believed his daughter's words. Then, Zhuang Ku'er told her father the details of the situation at that time, and then said worriedly, "Dad, will Xiaoxi be okay? After all, it was a human life. I've always been worried that we would implicate her." Hearing this, Zhuang Liaoyuan's face turned cold and solemn. What could possibly happen? Even if something happens, I won't let anything happen to her. Hearing this, Zhuang Ku'er was finally relieved. As long as her father took action, Xiaoxi would definitely be fine. At this moment, Zhuang Liaoyuan finally understood why the 2 men said that they were drunk and got into a fight after they were caught. People like them cared about their reputation the most. How could they admit that they were defeated by a little girl? As for those minions, after seeing Ningxi's skills last night, they naturally didn't dare to tell the truth out of fear. "Get up. Fortunately, your sister is fine. Otherwise, even if you repent 10,000 times, you won't be able to escape death today," Zhuang Liaoyuan said coldly. Zhuang Rongguang covered his bleeding shoulder and slowly stood up with the help of Zhuang Ku'er. "So, this is the reason why you suddenly woke up?" Zhuang Liaoyuan asked. Zhuang Rongguang nodded. "I want to be a person like Sister Shi. I'll thank God if you can compare with one finger of that girl." Zhuang Liaoyuan snorted coldly. Chapter 1161. Sigh, I owe that girl another favor this time. Zhuang Liaoyuan sighed. Zhuang Ku'er was also very touched by Ningxi. It was the first time she had met someone like Ningxi. If someone was nice to her, she would dig out her heart to repay them. Zhuang Liaoyuan looked up at his son. "I will arrange everything for you, as long as you sincerely want to make a change this time. Also, tomorrow is Saturday. Take some time to visit your grandfather at the sanatorium, so he can be at ease. As for what happened last night, you can explain, but don't tell me like you did to me. I almost killed you. Your grandfather has a heart attack." "Dad, I know. I know what to say." "Good. Go and take care of the wound." "Okay." Late at night, Zhuang Liaoyuan stood by the window with his hands behind his back. He looked at the night sky with a complicated expression. He hoped that the kid would really grow up this time. People would only grow up after experiencing trials and hardships. What about Ningxi? What did she go through to be able to grow to where she was today? The next day, capital, history headquarters. Ningxiuelua's eyes were gloomy. Beside her stood Dai Wei and some of the core executives. The Zhuang family's matter was completely messed up. History had been suffering a series of losses recently, especially in terms of the quality of the new clothes. They were not as good as before. Although the design department would release new clothes every once in a while, they were not as good as before. coupled with the fact that Zhe Ling and the fashion magazines were not willing to let go. History was pushed to the heart of the struggle. As the head of the design department, Dai Wei naturally knew that the main problem was him. If history could not produce high-quality clothes, it would not be long before Zhe Ling completely surpassed them. When it came to being anxious, no one was more anxious than Dai Wei. What do you want to say? Suddenly, Ning Xuelua turned around and looked at Dai Wei sharply. Boss. Actually, the design department has recently. Dai Wei was about to explain but was immediately interrupted by Ning Xuelua. I don't need your explanation. I only care about the results. Ning Xuelua's voice was very cold. Zhe Ling's new models are getting more and more popular, which is a big blow to history. More than half of the market share has been taken by Zhe Ling. And what is your design department doing? That's right. At the end of the day, it was the design department that caused all this trouble and pushed history to the forefront. All the responsibilities of the design department should be shouldered by you. The design director, Dai Wei, one of the higher-ups said. Dai Wei glared at the man before turning to look at Ning Xueluo. His heart was filled with worry. Is there any news about the person I asked you to find? Ning Xueluo asked again. Dai Wei knew who Ning Xueluo was looking for. It was Han Xiao, who was known as a genius in Italy. However, in the field of fashion design, Han Xiao was just a flash in the pan. He had long since faded out of the fashion circle's sight. It was hard to say whether or not he still had his previous skills. Moreover, Dai Wei did not want to get close to that lunatic, so when Ning Xueluo mentioned it, he did not take it to heart. Of course, the most important thing was that he was worried that his status would be affected. To find a designer who could suppress him, and such a troublesome character at that, wasn't he just making things difficult for himself? Chapter 1162. However, now that things had come to this, he had no choice but to compromise. Otherwise, if history was finished, he would really be finished. Boss, I know how to find Han Xiao. Give me 2 days. However, even if we contact Han Xiao, it's hard to say if he will come to help us. Dai Wei could be considered to have a slight understanding of Han Xiao. It would not be easy to invite someone who did not play by the rules to attack Zhe Ling in history. As long as he has the ability, we can give him any conditions. Ning Xueluo said directly. All right, boss, I'll do it now. Dai Wei nodded and turned to leave. Walking out of the headquarters of history, Dai Wei took out his phone and checked his contact list for a moment before making a call. Hey Dai Wei, what brings you here? A clear voice came from the other end of the phone. Jill, I have a favor to ask of you. Dai Wei said. Oh, there's something that you, the great designer Dai, need to ask of your little brother. What is it? Jill, do you remember that Italian Chinese, the one called Han Xiao? Dai Wei went straight to the point and told him why he was looking for Han Xiao. After Han Xiao's name came out of Dai Wei's mouth, the other end of the phone fell silent. After a long time, a voice came from the phone. Dai Wei, Han Xiao and I were once classmates. He studied design, but it was just a moment of novelty. You don't understand that lunatic at all. You must stay away from him. Dai Wei, I'm not joking with you. Jill. That lunatic, what did he do? Dai Wei could hear the fear on the other side of the phone when Han Xiao was mentioned. That lunatic, Han Xiao, is a taboo in the underworld of several countries. You'll never be able to imagine it. That lunatic once offended a mafia in Italy. That mafia sent over 100 people to kill Han Xiao, but in the end, all of them went missing, and they still haven't been able to find them. Dai Wei was taken aback when he heard that. Do you think that's the end? No, that pervert. On the second night, the mafia was destroyed. A few of the bosses and higher-ups were all fucking dead in the villa. It was said that their organs were dug out with a scalpel, and they were stitched together. There was even a tombstone on the wall. Who did it? Could it be Han Xiao? Dai Wei's entire body trembled. That's hard to say. The underground forces all say that it was that madman who did it, but no one has any evidence. If it's really Han Xiao, only God knows how he managed to destroy an entire mafia organization in just one night, and even get rid of those bosses and the higher-ups. At this moment, Dai Wei felt a chill in his heart. He swore that he absolutely did not want to have anything to do with Han Xiao. However, he couldn't explain to Ning Xueluo, so he still had to find Han Xiao. Jill, do you still have Han Xiao's contact information? Dai Wei sighed. Alright Dai Wei, I'll give you his contact details. However, I wish you good luck, brother. After hanging up, Dai Wei finally got Han Xiao's contact information, but he still felt a little uncertain. After thinking about it for a while, Dai Wei did not dare to make a phone call, and decided to send Han Xiao a text to test him. Haha brother Han Xiao, I'm Dai Wei. You still remember my mom? Ding. A text message beeped. What is your mother's surname? Chapter 1163. Dai Wei couldn't help but feel terrified when he thought about sending a message to a pervert like Han Xiao. He accidentally typed the wrong word instead of ma. Brother Han Xiao, no, I mean, do you remember me? I'm Dai Wei, Jill's friend. We met in Italy before. Dai Wei deleted the message a few times before he finally chose a more suitable one, and sent it to Han Xiao. Oh, you're Dai Wei, I don't know you. Dai Wei didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw Han Xiao's message. He had clearly met him in Italy before. He was sitting right next to Jill. Haha, brother Han Xiao, you're forgetful. We did meet in Italy before. Jill was your classmate, right? I'm Jill's good friend. Since Han Xiao had forgotten him, he wouldn't forget his classmate Jill. What's up? Han Xiao's message was sent. It's like this, brother Han Xiao. I just happened to find out that you're in the capital of China. Coincidentally, I'm also in the capital, so I'd like to meet you and catch up. Dai Wei felt conflicted after the message was sent. He hoped that Han Xiao would agree, but at the same time he didn't want him to. If Han Xiao rejected, then he wouldn't have to continue interacting with such a perverted and dangerous person. However, if Han Xiao didn't agree, then he wouldn't be able to explain to his boss, Ning Xueluo. I'm eating at Delicious every day. The address is west of Huadong Building. It's KFC, right? Dai Wei asked uncertainly. KFC, I don't think so. Dai Wei. He felt like he would lose a few years of his life just by texting this guy. Dai Wei was still hesitant after receiving Han Xiao's address. Did he really have to meet that perverted lunatic? However, when he thought of Ning Xueluo and the consequences of not being able to save history, Dai Wei felt a chill down his spine. In the end, Dai Wei had no choice but to force himself to drive there. 15 minutes later, Dai Wei stood at the entrance of KFC. He took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Han Xiao's appearance was easy to recognize. He had the appearance of a classic Asian beauty. Dai Wei saw Han Xiao as soon as he entered the store. At this time, Han Xiao was dressed in sportswear. His long ink-dyed hair was tied into a ponytail, and he wore a black hat on his head. He looked extremely handsome. In fact, there were quite a few sweet-looking girls in front of Han Xiao, and all of them were staring at him in a daze. Brother, can you give me your contact information? Before Dai Wei could go over and greet them, a few girls who appeared to be around 18 or 19 years old actually surrounded Han Xiao. Han Xiao raised his head and stared at the girls with an expression as if he was used to it. He didn't even bother to respond to them. Seeing this, the girls could only leave silently. Ha ha ha, brother Han Xiao. I'm Dai Wei. Dai Wei greeted Han Xiao with a smile as he quickly strode over to Han Xiao. Have a seat. Han Xiao stared at the seat in front of him. Order whatever you want to eat and pay for it yourself. There's no need. I just ate before I came. Dai Wei smiled. Dai Wei, right? I have some impression of you. Why are you looking for me? Just say it. I don't like to beat around the bush. After Han Xiao finished speaking, he finished the chicken in his hand. He still looked like he wanted to continue. Alright, brother Han Xiao, it's like this. I'm currently working at History. Our boss knows about your capabilities, so he wants you to help out at History. Dai Wei didn't dare to beat around the bush with this person in front of him, so he directly stated his intentions. Chapter 1164. Go buy me some drumsticks first. I'm not full yet. Han Xiao stared at Dai Wei. Okay. Dai Wei immediately stood up and went to the front desk to order 5 New Orleans drumsticks. After paying, he brought them back and carefully placed them in front of Han Xiao. You said I'm not interested, Han Xiao said to Dai Wei while gnawing on a drumstick. Dai Wei was speechless. You've already finished all the drumsticks I bought, 5 of them, and now you're saying you're not interested? Brother Han Xiao, our boss said that as long as you help us suppress Ziling, we can negotiate any conditions you want. Dai Wei hurriedly said when he saw Han Xiao's refusal. Ziling. Han Xiao had a thoughtful look on his face. Boss, Han Xiao has been found. He's right beside you. Okay, I'll put him on speaker. You can talk to him yourself. Dai Wei immediately called Ning Xuelua and turned it on speaker. In the next second, a gentle female voice came from the phone. Hello, Mr. Han. I remember. Didn't I just tell you that I'm not interested? Han Zhao's face was expressionless as his cold gaze fell on Dai Wei. Dai Wei's hair stood on end when he was stared at by Han Xiao. Without thinking, he hung up the phone without giving Ning Xuelua a chance to speak. I'm sorry. Dai Wei's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Although Han Zhao's expression was calm, Dai Wei felt out of breath when Han Xiao glanced at him. Is everything okay? Han Xiao said lightly. Yes. Brother Han Xiao, eat first. Call me if there's anything. Oh no, text me. Dai Wei turned around and left the KFC after saying that. Han Xiao sucked on his fingers after finishing the drumstick, then left for the history headquarters. Wait. What are you looking at? I'm talking to you. Downstairs at the history headquarters, several security guards stopped Han Xiao, who was wearing a tight sports suit. You know where this place is and you dare to barge in. One of the security guards pointed at Han Xiao with an electric baton. The history headquarters wasn't a place that anyone could enter. Their big boss was the famous movie star Ning Xuelua. Countless reporters and paparazzi tried to sneak in every day. Take your toy away. When the security guard pointed the electric baton at Han Xiao, an inexplicable smile appeared on his face. His originally clear eyes began to change. Look at you, you look like a girl. Hurry up and leave. The security guard said impatiently. Han Xiao ignored the security guards. With a slight movement of his feet, he bypassed the security guards and headed straight for History's headquarters. Are you fucking deaf? Where did this dog come from? You're courting death. The security guards were furious. A few days ago, the higher-ups had said that during this period of time, the media and fashion magazines could not be allowed in, especially strangers. Seeing that Han Xiao, who was dressed in sportswear, was ignoring them, one of the security guards raised his electric baton and swung it at Han Xiao. These security guards also had a set of systems. When dealing with such people, they couldn't hit their heads. If something happened, they wouldn't be able to absolve themselves from the blame, so they had to hit their bodies. Whoosh. A whooshing sound could be heard as the electric baton went down. The force was not small. Bang. In the next second, the security guard who hit Han Xiao was completely stunned on the spot. Han Xiao didn't even turn his head. He lightly pointed a finger behind him and blocked the electric baton. Chapter 1165. The rest of the security guards were shocked. He blocked the electric baton with just a finger. That was an electric baton wielded by a security guard who weighed 180 pounds. Didn't I just say to put away your toys? Han Xiao slowly turned around, a hint of morbid madness appearing in his eyes. Crack. Under the horrified gaze of the security guards, the electric baton was crushed by Han Zhao's right hand. Big brother. Please come in. Tell me if you need anything. The attitude of the security guards changed 180 degrees. They looked like they were about to kneel down in front of Han Xiao. The security guards were scared out of their wits. Was this beautiful man in front of them really a human? Could it be transformed from some kind of demon or ghost? Han Xiao no longer bothered with these security guards and turned around to walk into the history headquarters. As Han Xiao walked in, the history headquarters was in an uproar. So beautiful. She's even more beautiful than our big boss, Ning Xuelua. What a beautiful girl. Even those female celebrities who rely on their looks to make a living can't be this beautiful. Are you blind? She's so beautiful. She must be a boy. Brother Han Xiao, why are you here? Dai Wei, who was about to go out, saw Han Xiao as soon as he came out of Ning Xuelua's office. At first, he thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Quick, quick, quick. Please come in. Dai Wei immediately went forward and welcomed Han Xiao into Ning Xuelua's office. At this moment, Ning Xuelua was flipping through some documents in her office. She frowned when she heard Dai Wei's voice. Just as she was about to speak, she saw a beautiful man walking in front of Dai Wei. Dai Wei, this is? Ning Xuelua couldn't help but look at Han Xiao carefully. Then she asked Dai Wei. Ning Xuelua had seen Han Xiao's photo in a fashion magazine, but it was too blurry and the image was different, so she couldn't recognize Han Xiao at first. Hearing that, Dai Wei quickly walked forward with a smile on his face and said, "Boss, he's Han Xiao." Han Xiao. After learning Han Xiao's identity from Dai Wei, Ning Xuelua was slightly stunned. This beautiful man in front of her was actually a genius in the Italian fashion industry? Mr. Han, I've heard a lot about you. Ning Xuelua immediately stood up from her office chair, walked forward, and extended her right hand toward Han Xiao. However, Han Xiao directly walked past Ning Xuelua and sat on her office chair. He crossed his legs on the table and said indifferently, "Tell me, history's boss, what business do you have with me?" "Boss Han Xiao." That's just how he is, don't. Seeing Han Xiao's attitude towards Ning Xuelua, Dai Wei was afraid that Ning Xuelua would fly into a rage and get out of hand. However, Ning Xueluo's expression remained calm, as if she didn't care at all. She lowered her arm, turned around to face Han Xiao, and said with a smile, "Mr. Han Xiao, I've heard a lot about you. I believe that Mr. Han Xiao has already obtained some information from Dai Wei. I can repeat it now." "I'm listening." Han Xiao lowered his hat as if he was about to fall asleep. "Mr. Han Xiao, let me introduce myself first. My name is Ning Xuelua, and I'm the boss of History. History is a high-end luxury clothing brand, and I personally admire Mr. Han Xiao's designs. Therefore, I would like to hire Mr. Han Xiao as a design consultant for History with a high salary." Ning Xuelua went straight to the point. Chapter 1166. "Oh, is there no one in History's design department?" Han Xiao sat on Ning Xuelua's chair, his legs crossed on the expensive desk. He looked at Dai Wei with a faint smile. Dai Wei felt embarrassed when he heard Han Xiao's words. He was the boss of the design department. However, Dai Wei did not dare to get angry at Han Xiao. He could only smile and let Han Xiao say whatever he wanted. "To be honest, Mr. Han, History's design department has been lacking in inspiration recently. Our market share has been overtaken by our biggest rival, Zailing. Otherwise, we wouldn't have thought of troubling you." Ning Xuelua didn't try to hide anything. The most important thing now was to defeat Zailing. Everything else could be discussed. It was understandable that talented people were eccentric, as long as they had the ability. "Zailing." Han Xiao murmured. He had done some research on Zailing's clothing. The designer was indeed a genius. From the appearance to the charm of the clothing, everything was perfect. In this aspect alone, Zailing had already surpassed History. Today's History was only able to compete with Zailing because it had become famous earlier, so consumers had a preconceived notion of what it was. Furthermore, History's previous works had supported the media's earlier hype and exposure, so History could still compete with Zailing. Otherwise, Zailing would have left History in the dust. To put it bluntly, it was a company on the brink of collapse. Although on the surface, it seemed to be very confident, as time passed, History would be completely trampled under Zailing's feet. This was only a matter of time. The designer of Zailing was indeed a genius. Such a person and his work could indeed make Han Xiao's blood boil. Although he had only learned fashion design because he was bored, he was willing to continue playing as long as there was something that piqued his interest, regardless of the field. Seeing Han Xiao pondering for a long time, Ning Xuelua smiled and asked, "Mr. Han, do you have any understanding of the Zailing brand?" Han Xiao did not answer Ning Xuelua's question. In his mind, a few pieces of Zailing's shop that night appeared. They were classical and elegant, with a special oriental flavor and charm. And those few pieces of art had inspired him a lot of creative inspiration. If it were him, He would completely tear this special Eastern charm into pieces, break the shackles of the secular world, and create a feast of death and darkness. Zeiling, I'm actually quite interested. Han Xiao straightened his hat, and a trace of scorching light emerged in his eyes. He had told Ningxi the other night that the designer in Zeiling was not as good as him, but that woman did not believe him and made sarcastic remarks about him. Now he might as well do some exercise and compete with the genius designer in Zeiling to see whose work was full of irresistible magic. Ning Xuelua's eyes lit up as she sized up the handsome man in front of her. Does this mean that there's a chance? Mr. Han, if it's possible, I would like to hire you as the chief designer of history. Ning Xuelua looked at Han Xiao and smiled gently. Boss. Dai Wei's expression changed. He wanted to say something, but Ning Xuelua shot him a look. Dai Wei's face darkened. He had finally managed to invite Han Xiao over after much difficulty, but he did not expect that his boss, Ning Xuelua, would want Han Xiao to take his position. They had agreed that he was only here to save them in an emergency. Notice. Sorry babies. All sorts of things have piled up today, and the computer crashed. Update this chapter first, don't wait for me today. Chapter 1167. Oh, I'm not interested. I'm only interested in Zeiling. Han Zhao's eyes flashed with coldness. Ning Xuelua was disappointed to hear that Han Xiao wasn't interested, while Dai Wei was secretly relieved. Mr. Han, may I ask if there's any conflict between you and Zeiling? Thinking of this, Ning Xuelua couldn't help but feel a little happy. No, I'm just bored. Han Xiao smiled grimly. Ahem, okay. Ning Xuelua was a little embarrassed. Han Xiao, as the rumors said, only did things according to his own preferences. He didn't need any reason at all. Then how much do you want, Mr. Han? Ning Xuelua asked again. I don't want a penny. I'm just itching for a fight, that's all. Han Xiao said something that made them even more surprised. Peach Blossom Dock. Ningxi finally had some free time after a business trip, so she planned to spend time with Big Bun and Little Bun. Just as she was about to go grocery shopping, her cell phone rang. It was Zhuangke. Lu Tingxiao had obviously seen the name on the screen from the corner of his eye. Receiving the gaze of his wife, no, the boss, Ningxi immediately turned on the hands-free mode, and then picked up the phone. Hello, Ke. Xiaoxi, I have something to tell you. Is it convenient for you now? Well, what did Ke want to say? Well, Ningxi swallowed. Could she say it was not convenient? Of course not. So Ningxi could only put on an open and aboveboard expression and said, Yes, of course. Go ahead. My father and grandfather already know that you saved me and Rongguang the night before yesterday. Zhuangke's voice came from the other end of the phone. Hearing this, Ningxi's legs suddenly turned to jelly. She looked at the expressionless demon beside her with a pale face. Fuck. I'm doomed. She tried so hard to hide it for so long, but in the end, she was still caught off guard. This man really couldn't do bad things. What shocked her even more was that the great demon king was so calm. Could this be the calm before the storm? Xiaoxi, are you listening to me? Zhuangke asked curiously on the other end of the phone when Ningxi suddenly fell silent. Cough, yes. How did your father and grandfather know? Didn't we agree not to tell our family about this? What about Zhuang Rongguang? He wouldn't have been beaten to death, right? Ningxi's face darkened as she asked. Rongguang was whipped by my dad. The wound was quite deep, but it's been treated. It's not a big deal. Fortunately, I'm fine. Otherwise, my dad would probably beat him to death. Xiaoxi, it's all thanks to you this time. Zhuangke sighed. Well, Ku'er, is there anything else? Ningxi asked. Because if there was nothing else, she was going to hang up and accept the punishment of the Demon King. Zhuangke hurriedly said. Oh, I almost forgot. My father and grandfather want to treat you to a meal today. They asked me to invite you over. Ningxi hesitated and secretly glanced at the great Demon King. The point was that she didn't know how long she would have to kneel on the washboard. Should she go or not? The calmer the great Demon King was, the more scared she was. Ooh. Chapter 1168. Xiaoxi, you must come this time. If we don't thank you for this, our family will feel bad. Of course, it's not just about what happened the night before yesterday. My dad told my mom about a lot of things that happened recently. My mom took a leave from the army and rushed home overnight just to see you. Zhuang Kuo said eagerly. This, even Kuo's mother came back? It was said that Madame Zhuang's work was very confidential, and she only came back a few times a year. Actually, you really don't have to go through so much trouble. It's just a small matter. We're friends. Do you still need to thank me for helping you? Besides, you've helped me before. Ningxi said. Xiaoxi, what I've done for you is nothing. It's not even a small matter. Anyway, this is definitely necessary. If you don't come, our family will feel bad. Zhuang Kuo said seriously. Zhuang Kuo had already said this much, and Madame Zhuang had also asked for leave. Ningxi thought about it and decided that she couldn't refuse, so she could only say, okay, I got it. I'll be there. And then it's settled. I'll wait for you. Zhuang Kuo hung up happily. After hanging up the phone, Ningxi immediately ran to the kitchen and found a washboard. She thought it wasn't enough, so she found a durian out of nowhere and quickly returned to the Great Demon King. Ningxi held the washboard in one hand and the durian in the other as she stood in front of Lu Tingxiao with her little head raised. Her little expression was as flattering as it could be. Sweetheart, choose one. As long as you can calm down. Lu Tingxiao's face was still expressionless. His eyes swept over the washboard and durian in the girl's hands, and then his eyebrows twitched, as if he was about to collapse. You think this is enough? This is not enough. Ningxi was suddenly struck by a bolt from the blue. Her face was full of despair. Then, she threw away the things in her hands and used her killer move. With a cry, she hugged the calf of the little Bun next to her. Bun, save me, Mama. Xiaobao tilted his head in confusion. Although he didn't know why Mummy wanted him to save her, he still firmly hugged his mother. His little eyes could be said to be fiercely staring at Papa, as if he was protecting him. Do you know what she did wrong? Lu Tingxiao looked at his son and said coldly. Little steamed Bun first glanced at Mama, then immediately continued to put on a fierce expression towards Papa without hesitation. It was a completely my mama is right, and wrong is also right posture. Ningxi, on the other hand, continued to hold the steamed Bun, and refused to let go. Lu Tingxiao. Looking at the mother and son, Lu Tingxiao's cold expression finally broke. He pinched his eyebrows and said, All right, I already know about this. Hearing this, Ningxi was stunned. What did the Great Demon King mean? You already knew? Ningxi's eyes widened. You think you hid it well? Lu Tingxiao looked at her condescendingly. Ningxi immediately climbed up the pole and flattered. Sweetheart, you really love me. My acting skills are so good, but you actually saw through it with one look. Lu Tingxiao gave her a sidelong glance. Practice makes perfect. Ningxi. Cough, she had made enough mistakes that practice makes perfect. Chapter 1169. Ningxi rolled her eyes and suddenly thought of something. I just heard the news that the secret underground casino was destroyed in one fell swoop. All the gangsters present were sent to the police station, and the police station couldn't hold them all. So did you do it? The more she thought about it, the more she felt that it might be Lu Tingxiao's doing. Lu Tingxiao didn't speak, with a noble and elegant posture. Ningxi immediately let go of little Bun, rubbed into Big Bun's arms, jumped up and kissed the man's chin. Thank you, boss. After spending a lot of effort to appease Big Bun and Little Bun, and promising countless compensation, Ningxi went to the Zhuang family. As soon as she reached the gate of the military compound, someone took her to the manor. At the gate of the manor, there was already a graceful and quiet woman waiting in front. After seeing the girl beside the guard, the woman showed a suspicious look and didn't come forward for a while. Xiaoxi, you're here. Behind her, Zhuang Kuo ran out of the house and greeted the girl beside the guard. Ningxi smiled. Kuo. After confirming that the girl in a light pink dress with waist-length hair was Ningxi, Meng Linlong's expression was full of disbelief. Kuo, this is the Xiaoxi you were talking about? Ningxi was going to accompany Lu Tingxiao and Little Bun today, so she was dressed like a very good girl, which was probably very different from what Meng Linlang had imagined. It's my mother. Zhuang Ke led Ningxi to Meng Linlang and introduced her to Ningxi. Xiaoxi, this is my mother. Hello, Madame Zhuang. Ningxi greeted, looking at the beauty in front of her, who looked to be in her 30s at most, with an oval face and red phoenix eyes, and a classical temperament. She looked like a sister to Zhuang Ke. Ningxi's eyes couldn't help flashing a trace of amazement. Hello, good girl, I finally meet you. According to their description, I thought you were. I didn't expect you to be such a beautiful and virtuous girl. Come in and talk. Meng Linlang took Ningxi's hand intimately into the room. Meng Linlang had never seen Ningxi with her own eyes. She had only heard the description of Ningxi from her husband and children. Her shooting talent was better than Rongguang's, and her fighting skills were top-notch. She didn't even flinch when she killed the drug dealers, so she had always thought that Ningxi was a very tough girl. She didn't expect her to be so obedient. In the living room, Zhuang Rongguang was holding an English dictionary and reading it bitterly. When he saw Ningxi, his eyes immediately lit up, just like a fan seeing his idol. Sister Shi, you're here. Take a seat. After saying that, he poured her tea and brought her snacks. Today, Zhuang Rongguang was wearing a simple white shirt and jeans. He was an 18-year-old young man, and he looked very young. Ningxi looked at him for a long time and couldn't help teasing. If you had dressed like this before, would your girlfriend have run away with another man? Zhuang Rongguang was a little embarrassed by Ningxi's teasing. Sister Shi, don't expose my dark history. Did I? I was clearly praising your handsomeness. Ahaha, really? Seeing the appearance of her good-for-nothing son, Meng Linlong's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She looked at Ningxi with even more gratitude. You talk first, there are 2 dishes in the kitchen. Hearing this, Zhuang Rongguang immediately stretched out his hand and wailed. Mom, don't go. I beg you. Let the nanny do it. Chapter 1170. Meng Linlang said unhappily, there are guests at home. Of course, I have to cook 2 dishes to show my sincerity. It's because there are guests at home. Those who know you are thanking them, but those who don't will think you are going to hate them. Zhuang Rongguang muttered. Meng Linlang immediately glared at him. Although her eyes were full of anger, they were full of love. You brat. Ku Er whispered in Ningxi's ear with a smile. My mother's cooking is not very good. I see. Ningxi looked at the interaction between Madame Zhuang and the child, and her eyes flashed a trace of admiration that even she herself was not aware of. Xiaoxi, play with Ku Er and Rongguang for a while. The food will be ready soon. Okay, you go ahead. Don't worry about me. After a while, the food was ready. On the round dining table, the entire Zhuang family was gathered together, which was rare. Zhuang Liaoyuan held a glass of wine and took the lead to stand up. Xiaoxi, I toast you. Ningxi was immediately flattered and stood up with a glass of wine. Sister Shi, I also want to toast you. Cheers, you can drink as you like. You are a girl, don't drink too much. Zhuang Rongguang said and drank the wine in his glass. Ningxi shook her head and laughed. Finally, he knew she was a girl. Then Zhuang Ke Er and Meng Linlang also toasted her. The last one was old Chief Zhuang. Before the old chief stood up, Ningxi hurriedly stood up. Old sir, if you do this, I will be embarrassed. The host and guests were happy during the meal. Probably because the hostess of the family was back, the whole atmosphere was much warmer. During the dinner, the more Meng Linlang talked to Ningxi, the more she liked Ningxi. She even compared her 2 biological children with Ningxi. Before leaving, she took Ningxi's hand and gave her a lot of gifts she brought back. She almost gave her the emerald bracelet on her wrist, but Ningxi refused firmly. She only left some local products. But this was already impressive enough. In the end, Zhuang Liaoyuan sent guards to send her back. After Ningxi left, in the master bedroom, Meng Linlang looked at her husband and muttered, Is Xiaoxi really Lingyu's daughter? Yes, I've already checked. There's no mistake. Zhuang Liaoyuan lit a cigarette and said with certainty. Meng Linlong's eyes turned cold. I didn't expect that your silly sister could give birth to such a good daughter. Fortunately, I grew up in the countryside. If I had been raised by her side, who knows what I would have become? Stop talking. Zhuang Liaoyuan sighed. I feel there's something strange about Cici being kicked out of the Ning family, and it's probably related to that adopted daughter. Meng Linlang murmured and then asked, what's Grandpa's plan? Should he take it back? The Ning family doesn't know what's good and what's bad. It's fine if we don't know, but we can't just ignore it, right? The old master still can't get over what happened in the past, but he still likes Ningxi very much. He told me to take good care of her. Zhuang Liaoyuan said. Of course we should take good care of her. We take care of Ningxi not because Ningxi was born in her belly, but because we really like her. There's nothing to worry about. Hearing his wife's words, Zhuang Liaoyuan suddenly saw the light. You're right. Meng Linlang looked worried. You're a man. What do you know about taking care of her? You even want to recruit a beautiful girl into the army. How could you think of that? The report I submitted should be approved this time. When I come back, I'll take care of it. Zhuang Liaoyuan chuckled. Thank you, madam. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.